Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and welcome to my vlog, where it's both my mission and my pleasure to highlight my creative journey in hopes of inspiring you and giving you tangible takeaways to make your creative journey just a little bit easier, or hopefully a lot easier. Now, before I get into things, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. That way you get all the various lessons and episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. It truly does mean a lot to me, as I hope it does to you. So let's get into it, right? I have a friend that is 1 week away from filming his first independent film, and it's very exciting for him. You know, he's a writer, director, in that sense, like I was on my first movie, and it's exciting to see him start this process, you know, and I can kind of really be there for him and, you know, help guide him along in that sense. But he also has a different style on certain things, right? So it's cool to see that process come together for him. And I can't wait to see the results once the cameras start rolling. And, you know, ultimately, my big thing for all things is that there's never a singular way to do something, right? There's never one, sure, there can be like incorrect ways, but there's not a single correct way either to do something, right? There could, ultimately, it's about getting the result and so forth. Now, I'm not advocating for toxicity and so forth, in terms of the process, but in general, right, the spirit of it is that there's no singular path to get there. And what has been interesting for me in talking with my friend is that, you know, how he's kind of approaching it. And, you know, for me, I'm someone who shoots multiple cameras. He is gonna go with one camera. And, you know, in that way, they kind of have everything really plotted, shot listed down to exactly how it's going to kind of really edit. And for me, given my documentary background, I just like filming in general, to be honest, I just see it as almost like a necessary evil to get to the editing phase, which is my favorite part. You know, because that's when you really start to shape the movie and you see all these things. So for me, you know, and part of it's out of necessity, just needing to film faster, and I like to have the performances be as organic as possible. So I like to approach it like a documentary style, where, you know, the actors go about what they need to, and the cameras are there capturing them, right? And again, it's neither is better nor worse. It's just a different approach, different style. But it's interesting to me, kind of that, you know, that choice, right? And I'm curious to see how it all comes together and so forth. And I've seen, you know, he was kind enough to send me like scouting locations, and, you know, I gotten a chance to see a couple of the angles for the various characters with stand-ins and so forth. And because I've read the script, it's really cool seeing that come together. And I can really start to visualize it. So it is, it's a fun time, you know, to observe someone's creative process and really see it come to life, you know, and we can kind of support each other in that way. You know, he's, like I said, he's about a week out from filming his thing. And, you know, me, I'm in the midst of pre-production on mine. I'm a couple months away from shooting mine. So we're at different stages, but we can both be there for each other, because some of the things that I'm facing, you know, he dealt with, and, you know, he can. And by the way, it's not that none of us, you know, in a lot of ways, like, we've been through this before, and so we know, like, we know how to handle the thing. So a lot of times it's just mentally being there for each other, of like, you know, it's all good type of thing, right? And so that sort of distance of process, not the differences, but in terms of the timing, allows us to kind of, you know, just support one another in a way that I think we still could, let's say, if we were both like filming at the same time. But it just allows each of us to have a slightly different perspective and offer that advice, you know, that macro advice that we need at any certain moment. So it's cool. And by the way, I'm being vague about who this person is, just, you know, because it's his movie, it's his story and things like that, and I don't want to divulge details about it. That's his in that sense. I'm just kind of giving the broad strokes and leaving out the details so you don't know who it is. And the good news is I know a lot of filmmakers, so it could be any number of people that I know. So, at the start of this past week, the big thing was to not finalize, but at least get a drafted schedule of the filming for my movie done. And so, I got together with one of the producers, Kenny Harrison, and we worked it out. And overall, like before this, I had roadmapped the macro of like, day 1 is this, day 2 is this, day 3 is this, and so forth. And so we kind of worked off of that, filling in the specific scenes for each of that, and we used Studio Binder, and that of course gives you a page count for each day and all of that, and so forth, right? And you can create tear sheets much easier and faster, right? That's what Studio Binder is designed to do, among other things, right? It's a great resource, and I've talked about it in the past. And we got a version done, which was great to finally kind of see the specifics. But one of the things we realized is that in my macro version of the planning, I made a oopsie because I skipped like an entire portion of the movie. And not an entire portion, but a pretty, like, let's say pivotal 2 scenes that are like 8 pages, give or take. And so not the end of the world, right? We actually had plenty of space to be able to slot it in and be like, okay, cool, now this works. But it's just, that's why you go through all this and so forth, and double check all the work. And for me, like the paper edit of the schedule that I made, the macro version, it's not like it was going to be the final thing. It was just, something that was in my mind just to kind of see it. And then, you go with the next phase that we did to then, get into the nitty gritty and see how it all actually plays out. So we did that. And it allowed us to then have something to talk about with the rest of the production team, which I call Team Columbia, right? So I have a few friends down on the ground there. That's kind of how this all came together, is that I have friends there who I've gotten to know. And so, we're talking with them so that way we can coordinate, transportation, lodging, food, all that kind of stuff, right? And, now having a schedule allows us to really have meaningful conversations that before that were just kind of theoretical, right? So that was a productive meeting that we were able to have because of the schedule. The other big thing that I did accomplish last week was I finalized the shot list. Now, when I say finalized, again, it's a draft. It's not like it's complete, but from page 1 all the way to the end page, I have a shot list and we have a good idea in mind. And so in that sense, we can kind of take a look at it and so forth, and have a production meeting, which we will have this week, to talk about, okay, how we approach that, how we film it, the style of filming, yada, yada, yada. It just allows us to have that meaningful conversation. Now, of course, there's going to be script changes just in general and so forth, so that's going to alter the shot list. And also now, in seeing it, along with the filming schedule, we can then kind of look at it of like, okay, what are the days that are heavy, and okay, it would be nice to get 10 shots for this scene, but you know what, let's focus on these 8, and if we can do the other 2, great, but if not, they're just kind of superfluous, let's just get the coverage that we absolutely need. Or, instead of filming an entire scene for each shot, let's just break it down of, okay, if there's, we know we need a particular shot or reaction of a character in a close-up, let's do it for the part that we need versus the entire scene, right? So it allows us that ability. So that's kind of the next phase of the shot list and so forth, kind of going about it. But none of that happens without a first draft, right? And so all these different things, they're just iterations, right? so we can have those meaningful conversations, so we can see, are we on the right path, where we are taking up too much time, where we are not taking enough time, and so forth, right? It's kind of the same thing with the rehearsals. One of the things that has been a byproduct of these rehearsals, they're great, but in terms of translating page to screen time, it's a little bit longer in terms of the actuality of it. And so, I talked with John Comerford, and, one of the things that I said, like, right now we have 100 pages. So in theory, it should be an hour and 40. We kind of already wanted it to get down to like 95 minutes realistically. But now, the way the rehearsals are kind of dictating it, it would look like we would be ending up at like an hour and 50, hour and 55. And so rather than film it that way and then have to edit later, through the actual edit process, this affords us the opportunity to really go through the script right now and omit the stuff that, is nice but not necessary, right? And so that way I'd rather kill, as they say, darlings, right? Pardon the term, but that's the term, kill your darlings. I'd rather do that now versus, filming it and so forth. Because that's the other thing, like, it's not only, it's one thing to film it and then fall in love with it, but it could be harder to edit because then, let's say, the blocking of it changes because I want people to be active within a scene and moving around a lot of times. And so if that happens, then, that could open it up to continuity errors, and I don't want that. And secondly, the other big thing, kind of looking at it, it's like, we have to be cognizant because we are ambitious in terms of what we want to film and the time we want to film it in. So it's like, if we can just cut down certain scenes, a natural byproduct then is it becomes easier and faster to film because, the scenes are a little bit shorter. So in that sense, and, it just all kind of works in unison in that way, which is nice. So, that's kind of what we're doing as well. And, literally what I did yesterday was I reread the entire script and, on my tablet with my stylus, I just kind of was jotting down notes of what could be cut and so forth. And, luckily there's no like big scenes and nothing in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's not like we're cutting out character arcs or, side characters and things like that. Just, sometimes getting in a scene a little bit quicker, getting out a little bit faster, finding out, okay, what is the scene really about? Getting rid of the stuff that's kind of superfluous, to that, unless it like really informs a character thing that we want. And so, I just kind of marked it up, and John's going to go through, do all that, adds the wrong word because we're really kind of taking away or certainly changing. But we'll see kind of where we end up. It's tough to say because right now I just, like I said, it's not like I was doing it within the actual script. I was just doing it, quote unquote, on paper, meaning, just marking things up, and then he's the one that'll kind of take them away. So we'll see. I mean, my guess just off of doing that, it should cut, my guess is 5 pages right off just what I did myself. And I said, like, hey, let's maybe try to just get to 93. Let's get to 93 pages, and I think that would feel good. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that process. We were supposed to have an everybody rehearsal this weekend. Unfortunately, just the nature of indie film scheduling, it changes all the time, and we couldn't do that right now. So instead, we worked on scenes with 2 of the main characters and kind of their solo stuff, and it worked out great. It was great to kind of work with them and see their chemistry, on camera and so forth. And one of the things, for me, that I'm working on, I find that I'm really good at directing the scenes that have dialogue in them. The scenes that don't, I'm still working on, and that's kind of what I'm kind of looking towards. And, I talked with a couple of other people as well to kind of get their feedback of like, hey, what's a good approach for this to really bring it to life? And a couple of things that were shared with me that I'm going to experiment with is, one, have the actors improv the scene by saying out loud what they're thinking. Right? So it's almost like voiceover narration for their character, and just to play with it and see how that comes out in terms of emotion and so forth, right? So that was kind of one tip that was given to me that I'm going to try to utilize moving forward. The other thing is give them short directions, right? Rather than overwhelm them, just give them one or two tangible things and keep it brief, right? And kind of playing it that way. And then the third is to have them tell me what they think the scene is about. So that way, we can see if we're aligned or not in that way. And so, those are the things kind of moving forward that I'm going to do. The other thing, because we've been filming the rehearsals, I've been creating like this rehearsal film, and hence why I know like that the script needs to be cut down because I can, see it translated on screen and so forth, and I'm putting it into a timeline. So we have like this rehearsal edit of the film. And, now that we have that, I'm going to start to utilize that as part of rehearsals to play it back to the actors and be like, okay, see how this is coming across. This is good. This is what I would like to kind of just up a little bit so we see the expression on your face or whatever it might be, right? So that's another tool that is at our disposal, right? So yeah, that's kind of the long and short of all of that. This week, a main focus is for the actors to, let me know what costuming they have versus what they need, so we can have a game plan of that. We're altering the filming schedule based on a couple of things, based on our Team Columbia meeting, and things of that nature, just progressing forward little by little. Now as part of that, we're coming up on the final days of our crowdfund, which I've linked to in the description box, but it would mean the world to me if you at least checked it out, shared it with somebody. If you're able to financially contribute even just a small amount, it would mean the world to me. It makes all of our lives that much easier by, with everyone's contributions versus just, our own, essentially. And we've already had a good number of people be very, very generous, but we could still use help in that way, and so if at any point with any of my vlogs, my lessons, they've been a benefit, think of it like kind of like an in-kind payment, for all the stuff that I have brought you and will continue to bring you, it would just mean a lot to me and the rest of the team if you at least checked it out, all right? So the other kind of stuff going on is, what I've noticed, in indie filmmaking, there's always going to be stuff that comes up, and it's all doable and things like that. And luckily, by having a good team around me, we're able to really handle some of the hurdles that come our way, which are always to be expected, and especially on this level, especially filming in a different country and so forth, right? But it's interesting, my dog has had a pinched nerve, and so I'm being very cautious in exercising her. So whenever we walk, it's just kind of really essential walks, nothing too long, just to let her do her business. But in that way, I noticed that it takes an effect because we used to walk 3+ miles a day, right? And walking for me is a great time to collect my thoughts, de-stress, and so forth. And by essentially not having that for, going on 2.5 weeks, it does sort of mess with you. And not that I couldn't do it without her, but like, I don't know, just something about it feels wrong to, go on a walk, then come back, put her in her kennel, and then, go on my own separate walk. And, my soccer league ended a little while ago. And so not having that either, it's just been interesting, just it's definitely less physical activity, and you kind of, I definitely noticed my ability to kind of handle certain things that normally would be pretty easy breezy have been affecting me, and so it's just something for me that I got to be mindful of. And luckily, she's getting to the stage where I feel like she's making the turn. Again, I'm just kind of being overly cautious because she's on a lot of pain meds, and I don't want her getting that false sense of security where like, oh, she's all good and she'll do X, Y, and Z, but really be hurting herself in the process. And just because she can't feel it, that's why pain ultimately is good, because it provides a feedback loop to ourselves to not do something. Well, when she can't feel that pain, unfortunately with her, she doesn't know any better, and she'll just do the thing that is harmful for her. I'd still much rather that. I'd still, like, without the pain meds, her quality of life was just garbage, unfortunately. And so, and she's on a good amount of pain meds and things like that, and her quality of life is way better. And in that process, that's why I'm being cautious, because I and for her sake, don't want that false sense of security to be doing more damage. So I think like another week, maybe week and a half, I'll be overly cautious, and then we'll get back to our regular routine, because she's definitely she's like, hey, why aren't we going longer, type of thing too. Anyway, the other thing, so just kind of working on some side stuff as well, and it was really a first time that I was editing like a TikTok 90-second like montage video. And when you're cutting to a beat that's pretty fast, you kind of forget how long 90 seconds can really be. Like, you're basically making 2 cuts per second, so that's 180 individual edits, or shots rather. That's quite a lot, and I had to essentially do this for 4 different videos. And you kind of forget, like, damn, that's extensive. And, there's not really a lesson there or something like that, but it's just, sometimes you kind of forget all the, just deconstructing something, how, like, much can go into it. And speaking, kind of tying it back to my movie and the shot list, I never really considered this, right? Because I don't look at the statistics of any of it, but, like how many edits are within my first feature film, or how many individual shots and things like that. And what's interesting, like, if all goes accordingly, to the shot list now, I think we'll have 700 individual shots within the movie. Now, that doesn't include the edit points and so forth, but, you're like, okay, that's quite a lot of shots. That's cool. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the statistics of the number of shots for other movies and so forth. Because, I don't know, for me, editing, like, I look at things scientifically, but I don't, at the end of the day, it's about the feeling and so forth, and just kind of getting it done. And so I don't like to then reverse it and look at the statistics of X, Y, and Z. But my shot list is done essentially a spreadsheet, and so it has the rows and the numbers, and so you kind of you're like, oh, about 700. It seems like a good number of shots, and so forth, right? So, it's all just kind of interesting and so forth. But the reason I don't think about it is because it's all academic, and I don't know. For me, I don't have a purpose to it beyond just that, because it's not like if I knew some other movies like shot count and edits, it's like, okay, like I wouldn't be trying to recreate that, because then you're just forcing that movie. There's a difference between like being inspired by something versus copying it, and it's always interesting to me in that sense of like, oh, it wasn't until this was kind of happening that I saw the reference of, what you said, like you were inspired by this movie. And it's like, well, yeah, I was inspired. I wasn't trying to copy it, So it's like, you're not going to see a one-to-one comparison. Like, that's not the point. So it's kind of interesting that way. The other thing, I graduated from, or I went to Emerson College, and they have a great sort of alumni program now, and they're really trying to merge current students with alumni and so forth, and so they have like the social network called Emerge, and it's just been really surprising to me, the students that take advantage of it, and the ones that like, essentially reach out to me, and it's always just a humbling experience, they're like, and a lot of them are very proper and so forth, and they see kind of a couple things here and there that I do, and they compliment me on it, and it's just gratifying, really, and so it's always great when that happens, not because of that aspect, but a lot of them are ambitious, and obviously they're students, so they're kind of starting out in their careers, and it's just great to be able to help them. I really love helping them, and I try to bring as much as I can to the table for them, no different than with these sort of episodes and the various stuff that I put out. I always try to have something of benefit. And so, in that sense, I don't know if it does or does not, but I think, the thing I can feel good about is, at the very least, someone respond to them. Like, I think, one of the more discouraging things is when, you're someone at that age and you reach out to somebody and they just don't respond at all. Or, and obviously they have, they're young and have a twinkle in their eye type of thing. And so, any advice that I give, I try to do it from a pure place where, I give them action steps to take, and they are the ones ultimately that would have to do the work, and so forth. But at the same time, it's encouraging, never discouraging, and a tainted view of the business or something like that. It's always like, hey, if that's what you're thinking, these are the steps that you take, and just have patience and so forth, and continue on, and yada yada yada, whatever specific thing it might be. But yeah, I mean, I just love that, I think, like, for me, it's great doing these types of lessons and videos because, I can kind of have them and be able to point people as far as like the macro, like, for example, last week someone asked me, hey, can you take a look at my resume? And, I've done a couple of episodes based on resumes, and so I can point them in that direction, and so I don't have to regurgitate everything, right? It gives them a jumping off point, and then once they see that and apply that, then we can talk specifics of that. So that way, I just have that ability to, blanket it for most people, and then we can get into the nitty gritty on an individual level. So that way everyone benefits, right? At least that's the hope. Anyway, that's kind of, as far as creative stuff, it's kind of about it overall. Obviously a couple of other things here and there, but not worth mentioning. So yeah, thank you as always for taking the time to tune in, listen. Hopefully it inspires you. If there's any questions you have or thoughts of your own, it could be about any of the stuff that I talked about. It could be about stuff that I didn't talk about, right? Comment down below or hit me up on social media at Svitek. Would love to keep the dialogue going. I really appreciate and love whenever I get to engage with you in that way. And yeah, thank you so much. And like I said, the biggest thing, we're coming up on the end of our crowdfund, so if you could at least just take a look at it, share it, it would mean the world to me and the rest of the team. It truly would, a little bit, if there's people that just donate just even a tiny amount, like $1, every little bit helps. I know it's cliche, but it truly does. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.